podcast. I'm your host, Francisco. Got Joey as the co-host today, and then we're joined with John Onsa from the Heights in Toledo. What's going on, man?
Guys, how are you? Thanks for coming. I'm glad that we had a chance to meet, and you guys had a chance to come up and we're shooting this from the Heights rooftop, which is really cool.
Yeah, this is our first time here, and I mean, this place is absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to come back here when post-COVID, you know.
Yeah, properly.
Yeah, properly, and just enjoy ourselves. You know, I can spend a whole night here for sure. So. It's so sweet. So, what is your role here, and how'd you get started?
Great. So I'm the director of food and beverage here at the Renaissance Toledo. So the Heights is part of the Renaissance Toledo, which is a real lifestyle Marriott brand. So I oversee the Heights where we are, the downstairs restaurant, which is called Brim House, and then all the banquet and event operations. So it's a job that you really, at all of food and beverage. So you wear a lot of hats in a role as a director of food and beverage.
Right on.
Yeah.
So what is your day-to-day like here?
Day-to-day, really, it can, like I say, being a director of food and beverage, you're really doing a lot of different things. I mean, one from just interfacing with guests and overseeing the actual running of the operations. So we have outlet managers in all of our outlets, so just interfacing with them. And then really managing the profit and loss of a department, increasing top line revenue, and then really how do you improve the daily lives of your workers. So like I said, it's a job where you definitely don't sit in the office all day. You're moving around. It can range from anywhere from 8 hours to 15 hours. It just depends on how you work, and then also, you know, what's going on in the hotel.
So how long have you been here?
So I have been here, I had my year anniversary last month.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I made it a year, which is great. But it's definitely there's been a tremendous amount of work inside of a year. I think people, when they see when I first came and where we are now, I think we've definitely transformed the outlet for the better, or I should say the department for the better. So it's been a tremendous amount of work in a year. It's amazing, I think, when you look at a year and you compare that to, let's say, what others are doing, what you really can accomplish inside 12 months. I mean, you can make a lot of significant impacts and changes in anything, you know, really, if you put a work ethic towards it.
Yeah, so people with like that high mindset and just holding themselves to a high standard, but also having that work ethic. Mm-hmm. What are some things that you think you've done over the last year, like that are your highlights that you're really proud of?
So I think I said it just a few seconds ago. I would say like the three things I'm really proud of is that one, we've increased top line revenue, so we've just brought more money to the department. We've protected the profit and loss. So we've really, we've stopped hemorrhaging money, and then we've enriched people's lives. So I mean, people in my department. People have gotten better and have a better understanding of what their jobs are, and are just a little bit more smarter and work a little bit more harder. So I think those are the three things that we've done, and those are the three real success factors when it comes to like any business you're running. Not just hospitality, whatever you're doing, if you really have those three things humming, I think that you're a successful leader and you're running a successful business.
Absolutely.
So where were you at before this, and how does it compare to the Heights?
Oh, that's a great question. So I've been in hospitality. It's funny. You always ask like, "Hey, where are you from?" And that's a question that can range. It could include 6 or 7 states.
Right.
So mine does include about 5 or 6 places. So I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I spent my childhood there. But really, after college, I started to really travel. I spent a few years in Florida. I lived there for a while. I was in Colorado, Denver, Colorado for a little bit. Savannah, Georgia. I was up in the mountains in Virginia, and then I was real closer to D.C. I've been to Birmingham, Alabama. I've worked just a lot of places. But before I was in Toledo, I actually was out in. We were talking right before I think we hit record. I was in San Francisco, California, out there doing some consulting work for a boutique hotel in downtown San Francisco, right by the Wharf District. So. Came from the West Coast, and from the West Coast all the way out to Toledo is quite a change.
Absolutely. So, what brought you specifically to Toledo? Was it just the Heights, or like?
Oh, you know what? That's a funny story. I'm really glad you asked me because I wanted to tell this. So I was, I'd worked with some guys in Savannah, Georgia. We were part of a company called the Kessler Collection, which worked with Marriott. Yeah. Marriott's Autograph Collection. People may be familiar with that. So Kessler Collection was the first 12 hotels in the Marriott Autograph Collection were actually Kessler hotels. So I'd worked with a guy who was my director of food and beverage, and then who was the kind of the corporate director, were guys that joined this company called First Hospitality, which is what I work for now, based out of Chicago. So I had always kept in touch with them. I was out in San Francisco doing consulting work and trying to figure out if I wanted to keep doing that or find a home. So one of the guys I worked with said, "Hey, listen, I have an opening in Toledo." And no offense to Toledo, but when you're in San Francisco, you're like, I'm Toledo. I don't know about Toledo. Let me think about that. I live downtown. So I'll make it a quick story. My buddy, best friend, I reconnected with him, joined the Italian American League in downtown San Francisco, and it's a real Italian market down there. So he brought me for his first time there, and they have a little club, and they have like a little bar, and they have an old Italian guy who's named Francisco, who like bartends.
Yeah.
Francisco right there, right? And he makes only 2 drinks. He makes a Peroni or a Negroni. So whatever you order, if you order like a gin and tonic, you just get a Peroni or you get a Negroni. So we're hanging out with this guy. It's really cool. And there's this real estate agent with he's got pictures plastered all over like the meeting boards and everything like that. And he's everywhere. And his name's like Anthony Scalapeggi. And he's like real. You can tell he's like just real jovial. So we're hanging out. I'm looking at his pictures. And unbeknownst to me, Anthony Scalapeggi comes up the stairs, gets to the top of the stairs. And I told my buddy about this Toledo job. And he looks at the top of the stairs and he looks around and he goes, "Holy Toledo, look at all these new guys in here." So my buddy turns to me and he just goes, "Bro, you're going to Toledo." Who's going to come in and say "Holy Toledo"? So I literally took it as a sign, called my buddy back, and I was like, "All right, I'm going to come out and see it." And then when I got here, I realized, it's got this amazing Renaissance property. Yeah. And I think a lot like most Midwest cities, I think from the outside, you don't know if anything's really going on because you have an opinion, which a lot of other people do, like, oh, in the Midwest, there's not too much going on. But when you get to a place like Toledo, you realize like, hey, they've invested this multi-million-dollar lifestyle property in Toledo. So that's how I got here, and that's why I do like it.
That's one thing that's pretty reoccurring, like through our business and also this podcast. Is I feel like you said, like the Midwest cities, like they do get overlooked a little bit.
They do. You do.
Toledo is just like such a great. I wouldn't even say little city, but it's just a great area. I would just say it's underrated, really.
It really is. It really is. And you'd be surprised how many people we've done podcasts with, that came from New York. They've been on Wall Street, San Francisco. But a lot of them just end up settling down here
in Toledo.
So,
There's something about it, and I've been meeting a lot of people from Toledo that went out to like California and then have come back. Yeah. So they've come out with experiences, but they realize, like home's where the heart is. But I think people's hearts are in the Midwest, especially if you're from the Midwest. I think there's certain kind of like family aspects about being here, and there's a moral compass about living in the Midwest that I think it's different in other places.
Because you're from Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, I'm from PA, so we're considered the Northeast, so we're not really considered the Midwest. But I think if you go out in like Western Pennsylvania, it's very more a Midwest attitude than it is like growing in Philadelphia is very much New York, New Jersey.
Okay.
So it's East Coast. They're nice, but it's more of an aggressive nice. Where you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's we're out in the Midwest. It's a very more genuine hello, and people are a little bit more easier to get to know, and I do like that about the Midwest. Okay.
So you are from Philly.
I'm from Philadelphia.
Where is the best cheesesteak?
Oh my God, that's such a good question.
I gotta know, man.
Okay, so this is preference. I really like Jim's on South Street.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, because if you ask a Philadelphian that, they'll never just answer a question like Jim's. They'll just tell you why.
Okay.
The reason is Jim's is on South Street, and Jim's chops their steak.
Okay.
So I really like it. They chop it up. And then I get mine whiz wit. So there's a special way you got to order it. Like you can't just go to cheese. Like I want a cheesesteak, they'll throw you out. Like if you got I've seen guys go up and be like, "Hey, I'll take a cheesesteak." They'll be like, "Okay, can you go over there so I can get to the next person? I know you want a cheesesteak. Why else are you here?" So whiz wit means cheese whiz with onions. So you can say whiz wit or you say whiz without, which means without onions. And the only other cheese you can order is provolone. So if you go there and you're like either provolone or whiz. So if you said like American, they're like, I don't know, they just don't ask you to leave again. But Jim's is my favorite, South Street. They chop the steak. I really like that vibe. And South Street, Philadelphia is like a real cultural, artistic street. So it's kind of would be like Adams Street reminds me a little bit of like a small version of like South Street, a very small version of South Street, where it's super eclectic. And it's a good vibe. So to me, it's like the experience is like the food's great, but then like where you are and like your atmosphere is just all combined. So like, Pat's and Geno's are great. They're right next to each other. But to me, I prefer Jim's. The taste and then also the atmosphere.
I got to check my phone because I actually just texted my buddy yesterday. He's from Philly.
Okay.
And I asked for his top 3 places. I didn't even know you were from Philly.
No, there you go.
But I definitely got to see what you think about his opinions.
What did he say?
Philly cheesesteaks. Let me see what he said. He said Steve's
Prince of Steaks. Yep. Good one. Okay. Really good one.
He said Del Alessandro's.
Del Alessandro's is really good too.
And then the other one was formerly Chink's, believed it's called Joe's now.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes, they're all really good picks.
Really?
Oh yeah, he knows his stuff. Actually, they are real Philadelphian picks.
Okay.
So like everybody.
Are there, like, fake pics?
No, meaning like Philadelphia, and like I can tell he's a native.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're saying like D'Alessandro's, you say that. I mean, you know, Steve Prince of Steaks. That's only Philly guys say that.
Okay.
So like ex-Philly guys, like I'm actually losing a little bit of street cred by not saying any of those places. They'll be like, "How long have you been out of Philly?" They'll be like, "I've been on a while." I'll be like, "Yeah, you didn't even say D'Alessandro's." So my Philly card could be up a little bit.
Okay.
But really, there's one Tony Luke's, which is another one. There's a pork roll is another really famous item in Philadelphia. Okay. I would say like next to the cheesesteak. So Tony Luke's makes a really good pork roll. He made a couple movies in Hollywood, so he had a little. I believe he sells. I don't know if he's got the contract for the Phillies. I can't remember who's got the contract for the Phillies. Who does them inside the bank, the Citizens Bank Arena? Yeah, and then there's true story is Pat and Gino really do hate each other. So that's like really like I mean, there's definitely like no love lost. There's definitely a hatred there, but yeah, it's pretty funny. The cheesesteak wars. Yeah.
After all this talk, I could really go for it.
Dude, they're the best right too. My girlfriend tried to make me one here, and I was just like, oh, I'm at Marissa Rolls. She's like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, nah, it matters. Yeah. You need the rolls. You need all the accoutrement to make it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the favorite city you've been to besides Toledo?
Oh, great question. So there's a lot of great places. I would say my favorite, West Palm Beach, Florida, is an awesome city. So I lived. I forgot to mention that. When I lived in Florida, I lived in a lot of places in Florida, but West Palm Beach, Florida is an awesome little city. I love that. I like smaller cities, so it's smaller than Toledo. Great place for, obviously for the summer, but just like in general. Another little gem, Roanoke, Virginia is a cool little mountain city, kind of half mountain town, half city. A lot of cool. There's some cool restaurants there. That's a little bit place where it's like if you've been there, you know it's great. If you don't, it's a little bit of a best kept secret. Okay. I like that, and then I would add last was like Durham, North Carolina. Another really like that'll be on the top 10 list to move on USA Today's like top best cities to live. You always see like a Durham, North Carolina on there. Really progressive city, very liberal, very like eclectic. Has all the money because it's very close to like the Triangle, the North Carolina Triangle. So that's another place that's really kind of a cool spot. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, not major cities. I mean, the major cities are great, but you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like West Palm Beach is pretty decent size, right? That's right north of Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is, and it's well known because there's a lot because it's right next to Palm Beach, which is like that's where the Donald actually lives in West Palm. That's where Mar-a-Lago is. So that's where his Camp David is. So like, and Palm Beach is like known as like the wealthiest of the wealthy. So like all the captains of industry have houses in Palm Beach.
Yeah, one of my friends actually from my hometown. When I was in Fort Lauderdale, I actually stayed at his house in West Palm Beach.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, it's a pretty nice area.
Did you go to Did you go down like downtown? Like
we didn't go downtown. He was kind of on the. I think it was like northern part of West Palm Beach.
Okay.
And it was kind of like a smaller, like it wasn't like a downtown area.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to see quite all that, but I did go to like downtown Fort Lauderdale and stuff.
Good
like
spot,
that.
dude. A1A downtown Fort Lauderdale is a great time.
Oh yeah.
It's a great time.
You gotta go sometime then.
You do. There's a bar in downtown Fort Lauderdale called the Elbow Room, and it's one of those. It's literally a closet, small as a closet, and it's called the Elbow Room because you're touching elbows. And it's one of those spots where like you don't just get a bottled beer. I wouldn't trust it for anything else. No offense to the Elbow Room, but I don't know if they're cleaning their bar that well. But it's one of these staples where like you have to go to the Elbow Room. Fort Lauderdale has a lot of those like really like famous cool beach bars where it's just because it's just known for people just to people on vacation. So it's a good tourist spot. I like Fort Lauderdale. Between Fort Lauderdale and Miami, Miami has a lot more glitz and glamour, but to me, the people of Fort Lauderdale remind me a little bit more of the Midwestern people. All right. Compared to Miami. They're a little more superficial in Miami. Although I love Miami. There's parts of Miami that are really amazing, Brickell and great spots, but Fort Lauderdale, you're going to get more of that Midwest vibe.
So I had a quick question with the Roanoke, Virginia.
Yeah.
Is that like the same Roanoke that's on like American Horror Story and stuff like that?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is, which is crazy.
Really curious about that.
It is the same one. It's the same Roanoke. I hope I'm. Yeah, it is. It is the same one. It's an old railroad town, but it's very similar to like Toledo, where like in way, or like we were talking about Detroit, big railroad town, boomed. It boomed, built hotels, built up industry. Railroad dies. Right? Their cities want to come back through healthcare. But then you get these guys from like New York and Manhattan, especially Manhattan, who open up restaurants there. Or like ex-musicians are like, I want to come home and I want to open up. There's a guy running making bread there. He's got a little pastry spot there, and he's like this California guy who decided to move back. So you get like, and you can do it instantly, Like you do that in major cities, you're like the 100th guy. You do it in Roanoke, you're like the second guy to do it.
Yeah.
So it's cool. And the same thing I think in a place like Toledo. You can do that as well too. You can start anything you want in Toledo.
So have you taken like your experiences and then you've brought them here to the Heights, or like
it's a great
work, or like
Francis, it's a great question. So I think I've done it but I've definitely done it with a balance, because I think some people have been unsuccessful here in Toledo because they've thought they could overthink the city, like they're better than Toledo. And I think not possible. You can't be better in Toledo. But if you come in with an ego into the city, you'll get crushed. And I think you have to balance it. Like you take your experiences, like you take your growing up in a big city. You take those experiences and you take that energy and that enthusiasm, you put it in there, but you got to see what works in Toledo. And I think that what we've done here in this restaurant is that we've taken what Toledo is. It's good, classic American bar food, right? It's friendship. It's good atmosphere. It's not something that's like overdone, or we're trying to like impress you with all these bells and whistles. We want you to have a good experience, but at the same time, we want to give you food that you understand and drinks that you understand and that you can relate to. And I think that what I've done here is that I've realized really quickly is like I got to get to know the people of Toledo. It's like 2 or 3 degrees of separation here. You know a guy who knows a guy. You need a great musician. Oh, my brother's a great musician. Yep. It's that small of a town. So you got to respect that. And I think that I've watched other people, not naming names, who have been here, not in this hotel, but just in general, have just been in here with too big of egos. Oh, I'm just going to impose my big city atmosphere on the Toledo. That's just not how it works. No. You got to respect what the city is, and like you got to work within it. And I think when you realize like what it is, like this is a real retro town to me. It's got a lot of 80s and 90s feels to it. You look at like Tony Paco's and like look at like company like Jute Mode that makes a lot of like vintage cool 80s 90s t-shirts. Yeah. Like that's what Toledo is. So just you got to breathe new life into that and understand what your market is.
So no thoughts on opening or a new Philly cheesesteak place here?
I don't see like I don't know if could it work? Yeah, but I don't know if Toledo. Toledo would probably like it. I think that I don't know. I don't know if Toledo would want it or would do it. You know what I mean? They may. Right. There's some guys that open up some good pizza spots, but it's a bar. I think honestly, like open up spots got really good bar food. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like mac and cheese bites are a really big seller in Toledo, and they're great. But they're great. Know your appetite, and go from there. But at the same time, I think people can still. You look at a place like Kango, the sushi bar down the street, or Yakitori. That's my favorite place to go in Toledo. It's my favorite place to go to kind of like relax. They have a Yakitori sushi bar. It works. So there is. I don't want to come across to like I think you need to dumb it down for Toledo. I just think that there's certain niches. You got to find where there's certain things to put your energy in.
So do you eat regular sushi rolls, or do you eat like the maki and the sashimi?
So I try to show off and eat like the sashimi and stuff like that. But I'm a regular sushi roll guy, but I love a yakitori. So like I'll go there and I get their small plates, and like I'm more of like I guess I'm more of like a tapas guy. I like a little bit of a small plate meal because I like bar food. I rarely, when I go out, do I really sit at a table. I like to sit at the bar, even if I'm having dinner. Especially I'll take my girlfriend. Like, well, she knows like it's great because I'm easy to go to dinner with because I don't have to wait for a table. I just go right to the bar because I like that atmosphere. I like to talk to the bartender. I like to interact because I'm there really being the business. And I think I said this earlier. I'm there for the atmosphere. I want to take it all in. But I love sushi. Is one of my favorite things to go out for.
Oh yeah.
And we got some places in Toledo that do it. Sakura downtown. I live like right next to them. They do it right. So yeah, there's certain things that we just take. They got it going on.
Oh yeah, and this place is no different than what you're talking about. Like as soon as you come up that elevator, it opens. You know, like you're in a whole new atmosphere almost.
It's a good point, Francisco. You really are.
You step out. There's this whole place is surrounded by glass. You can look out anywhere. And it's like, damn, like we're really like 13 stories up.
It's pretty wild, right?
It's just crazy, yeah. And it's like this is definitely a place where you could just chill,
It does, and it really kind of it changes it influences the way like the food tastes and. The way that let's say like a beer or a glass of wine or a crafted cocktail will taste, it influences it all. So I definitely talk to my staff about like we want to have consistent quality ingredients, service, and everything has to be consistent. I said you have this amazing space behind you that's going to make everything taste sweeter. So it's your job just to to provide that consistency in warm hospitality, right? And that a hamburger should taste delicious, but it's got to taste delicious on Monday, and it's got to taste delicious all through Sunday. And if you want to push, I say this to anybody, like if you want to push the envelope, you got to have a business that has a platform that has structure and that's built up. Before you start going letting creative take over, you really have to have a solid foundation. And I think what we did here in the last year is we built a solid foundation. And you by making things a little simpler, you focus on those, and then you slowly can build it up and start to bring in creative things. So if you look at like a menu, and you're developing a menu, right? You want they call a thing called cross utilizing ingredients. One entree and another entree should be using similar ingredients. So when you're prepping, it's less prep, right? You're not running out of things. It's easier. But you do that, and you build up a menu where it's easy to train people that way. The creative part goes from having Blackboard specials. So you take whatever food that you're using in other areas, and you put that, and that's your creative outlet. So instead of having 12 items that are all based on creativity, you have 1 or 2 items that are based on creativity that are really amazing, and then you can focus a lot of time on. Yeah. So I think that's what we've done here in the last year, is that we've simplified everything, educated people why we simplified it, and then built it up to the point where like, hey, now we're really ready to do some really super creative things.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that. It goes for any business. You really have to know your internal procedures and your processes before you can start expanding.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, and it's the old saying, like, a jack of all trades is a master at none.
Yeah.
So I feel like you really gotta hone in and know your craft first, and then you can start to branch out.
That's real. When I was in Boca Raton, I had this. I worked with this company called St. Andrews Country Club, and it was like the premier club in Boca Raton, which is like a really affluent area. It's if you're working the private clubs, and they had a personality. I guess he was like a doctor of personality. He did personality tests, and he was talking to me about my strengths and weaknesses. And he said something to your effect. He said, "Start focusing on your strengths instead of your weaknesses." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm supposed to focus on my weaknesses." He's like, "Listen, you're not good at that. Stop trying to work on that so hard so you become mediocre. Just focus on what you do really well, and that'll be your success, and that'll overshadow your weaknesses." And it completely I couldn't swallow it, because I just was like, I grew up in sports where they're like, you can't dribble with your left hand. Start learning how to dribble with your left hand. I was like, well, I'm never going to be good with my left hand. Well, you need to be good with your left. So it was like everything against, but then I started to realize, I was like, it's like working is a little bit different than sports, where like, if I'm a really good communicator, continue to work on being a great communicator.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if there's a skill set I'm not really good at, okay, or be aware of that you're not good at it and be honest about it. And then continue to focus on your strengths. So that was a really good lesson that I learned, and now I really focus on what I'm really good at, and then just be honest and open about like, hey, I'm not good at that. I'm not the guy for that. Instead of just kind of like self-deception, where you're just like, I could do that, and then you take it on, and then there's another guy next to you that's better at it, but you've already vocalized it, and then now what are you going to do? You're going to put out an inferior product. So.
What's your top 3 strengths?
Oh man, top 3 strengths. I would say
communication.
Communication's one of my strengths,
and you're killing it so far on the podcast. I believe it.
Thank you. I would say communication, my drive. So like my drive, my enthusiasm. What's my third real strength? I would say my emotional intelligence, meaning the understanding the people around me and understanding what makes them tick. Understanding that there's different personalities, and I'm working with people that see things differently. So I would say those are kind of three strengths. Yeah. That are.
I think emotional intelligence is really underrated in today's society, especially with just all the different parts in society and stuff like that. But if you're taking a leadership role and you're managing other people, you have to be able to see stuff from their perspective. You might not always agree with it, but you have to at least be able to see it.
Yeah, you really.
And then tailor the solution or whatever it might be to the situation.
It's a good point. Leadership is like, I've been in leadership now since I've been like in my early 20s, and it was something that I was thinking about this when you're in your early 20s and you're managing people and they're in their 40s and 50s. That's a hard pill to swallow, because you're managing people that have mortgages, that have families, that have had a longer life than you, and it can be very difficult for young leaders to try to wrangle them up and talk to them, because they're just starting. You look at a recent college grad who's given a management job in hospitality, and he's got people, restaurant bartenders and servers, that are in their 40s that have chosen this as a career. It's very hard. Mature, you have to be a very mature person to be able to, because you're talking to them and you're trying to hold them to accountable under a certain system of rules, and it's just sometimes it's hard to connect with them. So I think a lot of that comes with experience. I'm not saying you have to wait until, so I'm 34 now, so I don't think you have to wait until you're 34, but I think you have to know going into it that like, hey, I got to find a way to like find common ground with these people, but I have to understand too that there's certain things they've experienced that I just have no idea. Because I'm 22, and it's, and not to say that everyone 22 is inexperienced, people's lives are different, but a 40-year-old has just had more time on this earth than a 22-year-old. So when you're leading that person, you got to be aware of that and know that 40-year-old's going to eventually give you advice. Even though they may be in an inferior position than you, they're going to be like, hey, I think we should do it this way. And you got to be like, hey, okay. Mm-hmm. They've been on this earth longer than me. They've been through some things. I'm going to listen to them. So I did that early in my career. I worked with a lot of bartenders that were much older than me. They were like former business owners that chose Florida to retire, and they were just using it for like lunch money, they used to say it. They would say Miller Lite money. John, this is my Miller Lite money. And they were really good at telling me like, hey, John, I ran a bar in Philadelphia. Like, let me tell you, like, hey, I think you're thinking about closing right now. I think you should stay open another 45 minutes. Yeah. Oh, why? Well, because I think you're going to have another rush. So I listened to those guys instead of being like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not the boss.
No, that's pretty good. And I'm in the MBA program at University of Toledo.
Oh, great.
And that's one of like the more like progressive mindsets that's starting to take over. Mm-hmm. It's called bottom to top management.
Okay.
So it's where you take, your bottom, I guess, inferior for better lack of term, right?
Yeah.
And you take all of their input and you start to digest that and build your business around what they need, what makes them going to be like the most successful. And you take all their ideas. So like you're saying, so you take the ideas, all right, maybe we need to stay open on Father's Day, Mother's Day, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you just find that through different experiences, through just different time on this earth, you can get the most success out of your employees that way.
That's great. And I see it a lot in managing millennials especially. Mm-hmm. It used to be where you give someone a certain amount of money and that was sufficient. And you didn't ask for opinion, but you gave them a raise, and the raise was sufficient. But now you see a lot in the millennial generation where they'll sometimes even forgo raises just so they have an opinion. They're like, hey, listen, I don't really want the couple extra bucks. I'd rather have you just really listen to me and also give me more experiences. I've learned that, especially when I'm managing people that are in their 20s. Although I'm 34, it's like the difference between me and a 21-year-old is vast. And it doesn't seem like it would be, but there's a whole different opinion because they're coming up in a very different world than I came up in the age where like we had one cell phone for 3 people, right? But there was now every kid has a cell phone. Yeah. So I understand now it's like, hey, it's more about an experience. I'm more about like they want to learn something as opposed to like, hey, that's your job. I'm going to pay you for that and just go ahead and do it. And they're like, hey, no, you have to ask my opinion. You might take my input and put into action, but I want my opinion heard, and I want people to at least give me that opportunity to like express myself. Mm-hmm. So we try to do that, especially here at we do a weekly meeting once a week with all of our leaders, and I really push hard for the junior leaders to speak up in the meetings.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I do it. I think you have to. Some people are a little shy sometimes, and I'll ask a question like, "Hey, what's going on?" It's a very general statement, and they'll be like, "Nothing," and I'll just be like, "Okay, what's really going?" Like, what do you think about this? And I do it until I elicit opinion, and I've seen a positive impact. They feel a little bit more like, "Hey." And then sometimes they come up with amazing ideas that changes. Like you said, hey, I think we should serve brunch for Father's Day. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a great idea, and we see that it made a lot of money. We're like, hey, that was a really awesome idea that Mitchell came up with. That was awesome, man. So you gotta elicit opinions as much as you can.
You got anything to add on to that?
I had like 3 questions. I had like 3 questions in my head, but now I just
cut me off, man. I talk a lot. Just wave the flag.
Oh no, you're good. So going off of that, what would you say, like a 21-year-old coming out of college? What's the best advice you can give them? Just listen and communicate.
It's a great question. There are really important things. Be nice. Come out and be nice. I know that sounds really funny, but like be nice. Be nice to your coworkers. Listen. I think listening is really important. Develop a work ethic. A really strong work ethic, and that doesn't mean that it has to be the amount of hours you work, but how hard you work, the productivity, how productive you are. Be prepared to check your like when you check your coat when you come in, you're gonna have to check your ego a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I still think an ego is good. I think you need to have pride because you need to be able to stand up for yourself and have an ego and know that like what you're capable of. But know that you are the least in some cases you're going to be the least experienced person, but you may not be at the bottom of the totem pole. Because of your education, because of what ability you have, you may be given a management position right out of college. You may not have the experience for it. So don't feel that like you're inferior or that you're going to be outed. Just know that like, hey, your skill set and what you're bringing to the table, you've been given a management position and be grateful, and also know that you're going to be I think like Francisco said, you're going to be taking advice from people that are that have been there longer than you, that may not have the same role as you. And then, find a way to find a common ground with everybody. Find a way to have a personal relationship with everybody on your team. Not in a sense like you have to go out and have drinks with everybody or see them after work. Find a way to have some type of personal connection with everybody on your team. It's a favorite sports team. You both like the color green. Whatever it is, find something that you can relate to someone, because if you're going to hit a stress moment with someone, people are going to be like, hey, we have some type of connection.
Right.
Because you got to build connections with people, especially in hotels. It can be a very stressful job, whether it's the guest or whether it's, things like COVID-19. It's a very stressful situation, and it leaves a lot of people out of control. But you got to build up a good team environment and build up relationships with people, because you don't want that stress to start to affect your relationship. So I would say anyone that's young, in their 20s and 21, those are all the really keys. And then I go back to it, be nice. Come in with a good attitude and be positive, and positivity gets rewarded a lot more than I think people really think that is. It's a hard thing to do every day, to come in and be happy every day. It's really, people think sometimes like, oh, be happy. It sounds so easy. It's not. It's hard to come in and be like, constantly be in a good mood, and you're rewarded for it.
Or if somebody's, angry, one of your other, employees or somebody above you, maybe figure out why.
Yeah.
Like instead of just being like, oh, they're mad, I'm not going to talk to them today, figure out why they're mad and, see how you can help them or how they can help you.
I would agree with, human resources is like a really important part of like any company. It's really important part in hospitality. And I think having human resources available, and like we're all a little bit of human resources, all managers. You're good point. Like, understanding what's going on with people, and then understanding that people, everyone's a little bit different. So you got to give people, a little bit of leeway sometimes to express themselves and to be them a little bit, right. And whether it's good or bad, as long as it doesn't break any moral and ethical rules. Let people be themselves a little, and because that's why you hired them. I didn't hire 250 Johns. It'd be out of control. If we had 250 me running around here, it would be insane. You don't want 250 Johns. You need certain types of people, and that's what really makes a good team.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how many have you done so far?
I've done 5, but the team as a whole has done 9, 8 or 9.
Wow.
This will be the 9th, I think.
Great, man.
Yeah, so it's not too bad. We've only been doing it for a couple months. So.
How did you guys all come together?
So we gotta take us back a couple years almost.
Yeah, go ahead.
So me and Joey were in the same fraternity.
Okay.
And then my roommate, Evan Marsh,
okay.
He's also in our fraternity. So us three, we all knew each other, but we weren't like super tight.
Mm-hmm.
Then 3 years ago in a marketing class, I had to present an innovative idea, and my innovative idea was an app, and it was at the time called Usher, but since then we've changed everything. So Bar Crawl.
Okay, cool.
And it's the idea of getting people out, so younger people, but it can really be used for anyone. Mm-hmm. Getting people out and having a good night, planning the perfect night out.
Great.
So finding like all the hot spots in your area. Where's live music? Where's the best? Like, can I get a picture here? Like, what are your specials? She's asking how the team came together.
Yeah.
So I had pitched this idea way back a couple years ago, and then I told Evan about it, and he's a software engineer. He's a developer.
Great.
And then one of our other really good friends, Matthew Soltez.
Yeah.
He's also a developer. So we all kind of came together, started building this app last year. We just thought, it would be a perfect opportunity. The AfterHours podcast. We're doing an app built around getting people to bars and their like establishments. What better way to connect with bar owners and people in our generation that love to consume media through different mediums.
Yeah.
Podcasts are just popping right now.
It is.
So we just kind of figured, why not make a podcast about it and
just get some connections, as well as entertaining people.
Yeah,
we just have a fun time doing it.
As well. It's a great companion piece to the app.
And me and Joey,
exactly.
We're the funniest of the group. So
we'd like to think so. Not to stroke our own ego.
Yeah. So we put together the podcast, and then we turned an app idea into a business where we do custom software solutions for other companies.
Cool,
so
man.
We've got some pretty big contracts in the Toledo area, and we're doing pretty good within our first year.
Good for you guys, man.
So
I think I think it was a great part of what you said, Disco. You guys were not that close. And that's what's great about it, because how many times have you been out drinking with your buddies? You're like, oh, bro, let's start a business together. It's your best friend, right? But it's almost better sometimes if it's like guys you're familiar with and and then you come together. Yep. Because sometimes it gets a little bit harder when you're working with people that are really close with you.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so emotional.
Right.
But I like the idea that you guys at least were familiar with each other. You knew each other. You're obviously in the same fraternity, so there's a bond there. And then you end up building a business with each other.
Yeah, I mean, we spend 12 hours a day with each other, all 6 of us.
Yeah, at least 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'd like to say now we're pretty close.
Yeah, you guys are close. But it's good you got there.
Exactly. Yeah, well, it's like you said, though. Like, we all came together with the business mindset first instead of those emotional ties that come with like almost baggage, right?
Yes.
So we all kind of came together with similar goals, and similar work ethic. We all like to work hard and put in our due. Yeah. And then we just want to see like a good product. And I mean, I've been behind the bar crawl idea just because, like, I mean, there's nothing else like it that's succeeded.
No.
And I remember you on your sister's 21st birthday. She wanted an app like this.
Yeah, we were.
It's perfect.
We've been in like Vegas. There's just so many bars to go to. I just don't know where to go.
Yeah.
If you go to a big city like New York, you search best bars. There's 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
But there's no actual app that tells you, hey, this is the people's rated top 10. You click. This is what the specials are for the night. This is what events going on. Do you want to play in a bar crawl based on these bars? Or do you just want, even if you don't want to play in the bar crawl, you can at least see the best bars in the area.
I love it, guys.
And it's also similar to what you said. Like, you can also preview the atmosphere of where you're going.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we got live music Friday night, and it's right next door to a place that has a comedy special. So maybe you want to go to the comedy special first, and then you want to go dancing later, or whatever it might be. You just want to plan the perfect night out. And then college students don't have the most money to like expend.
They don't.
So that's like another part of it is like, wouldn't it be great when you're in New York City, a place that is a little bit more expensive, or in Vegas, and you just want to get the most bang for your buck. So, and in the app, it's a map feature. You can see all of them geolocation based, what's near you, put them all together, get all your friends in a group chat on the app, and then you can all talk. And then also incorporating a Bitmoji type thing. So with Snapchat, you can see where your friends are at all times. Just to make sure
if you want them to.
If you want them to, just to make sure everyone gets home safe.
Very cool. I like that a lot, man. Yeah. It's a very cool idea. You're right, because I think people more and more want curated trips, right? Mm-hmm. And they want to be able to be like, where are we going? How many times have you been in a group text where like it's like, I watch my girlfriend's group text and they're trying to figure out, they're trying to get together, like they haven't seen each other in a month, and 6 girls hate the bar, 2 girls like it, but they all go, and it's just like, it would be great if it was just like, here's the list, and I'm putting it together, so where we're going.
It's actually funny too. I mean, all right, so I was going to say, we went up to Detroit, and Joey and I had pitched this idea in front of investors and people that were just in the entrepreneurial space.
Cool.
They liked it. And one of the guys that was sitting in the front row, he was literally on his phone with his girlfriend next to him, and they were looking up places to go right before our presentation. And we went up there, and we killed it, obviously. Yeah. Killed the presentation.
Yeah, it's
and
great,
then he's
man.
like, guys, I absolutely love it. Like, how do we get this like, how do we get this in people's hands? Like, he just absolutely fell.
He was awesome. Like, me and my girlfriend couldn't decide. Then we just slowly looked up, and we're like, wow, that's weird. Like, you guys are pitching what I'm doing right now.
Wow.
So it's just crazy how that stuff works sometimes.
It really is. It's just, and because you're right, because a lot of it is I'm going to turn my phone back on, but it's a lot of it. It's just people just, it's right there in front of them, man. They spend so much time on there, and Yelp's not a big help anymore.
No, and even if you like we said, even if you search big like best bars in like an area, who really writes these ratings? You never really know.
It becomes. Somebody asked me the other day. I think one of my girlfriend's friends asked me, "It's like, how much do you care about Yelp anymore? Like the reviews?" I'm like, dude, it's so negative on Yelp anymore. I don't. I mean, is Yelp? I don't want to bash Yelp completely, but I don't find it really even great anymore. I don't really use it anymore.
Well, generally, it's probably. I would assume it's because people don't. You don't always review when you're like, oh, this is great. You don't always review the place, but you're like, oh, I don't know if I had the best time here. Then you'll probably be like, oh, I'm going to review this place. Whatever place it is, you give it a bad review.
Exactly.
So, and that could be, part of the reason Yelp may be falling off.
I think it is.
That's a good little plug for the podcast.
There you go.
Coming to the App Store in, I believe, August or September. So that'll be a completely finished product. Got the whole team working on it, so it's exciting.
Very cool, man. Okay.
So that's how we came together.
That's great. Great story.
All right, so back to the podcast. We'll start with a good one. What is your favorite drink?
Oh, my favorite drink? It's a great one. I would say it's a gin martini dirty, which means, with olive juice. That's my go-to cocktail. It's my favorite cocktail.
And then if anyone's coming here for the first time, what is something that they need to try?
First,
food or drink.
Okay, first time if they're coming, one, they got to get a pizza. I would start with our artisanal cheese. Our cheese pizza is amazing. Get that first. We keep that oven at close to almost close to 900 degrees. It's a wood-fired oven. Our wood comes from Michigan, so shout out from Michigan. So it's really, really incredible. You got to get a pizza, and then I would say as far as a cocktail goes, I think we make, a Moscow Mule in the summertime with a pizza is just a great classic cocktail with a really classic cheese pizza.
Big
that's
mule
my
guy.
favorite.
So.
Yeah, mules are great, man. So that's I would say that's the real go-to. And then also, take it and get an outside seat. Sit outside and enjoy it.
So I didn't ask you this earlier. You said you love sitting at the bars. What is your favorite bar food? Not necessarily here, but anywhere.
You can't say here.
I can't say here.
Yeah,
I would say here. My favorite. You know what? I think I love tater tots. I think they're like the greatest bar. I'm between fries and tater tots. Tater tots to me are like the greatest bar snack. I love to have tater tots at a bar. I love calamari is another one I really, really love. I love to have calamari. I love a good meat and cheese board. They're kind of like the top three. But I mean, there are certain places that do, like to me, and it's fine, favorite bar food, man. You put a tater tots in front of me. I just think they're the greatest.
Is there any places that have tater tots or that are just above the rest?
Who does them really good? There's, let's see. We do amazing tater tots, but our tater tots are incredible. There's a place I'm trying to think of in Toledo that does really good tater tots. I haven't had any in Toledo. There's a place in Leesburg, Virginia, which is a place I live, called the Wine Kitchen, that does like a real like classy tater tots. They did it with like this melted blue cheese, and they put like truffle oil on them. That's like my favorite snack of all time. Like I'll get them every time I'm there.
Speaking of that, it reminds me of a place in Cleveland called Barley.
Okay.
Where, actually, I think Town Hall does them. But they're truffle fries.
Oh,
and
yeah.
When you get those, you just go to the bar. You get those when you're, after a few drinks, and they're just
They
the
just
best.
hit different.
They're the best.
The truffle fries are amazing.
Yeah.
Truffle oil is incredible. Yeah, I use truffle oil. Actually, the restaurant that I worked at where I would do truffle oil olives. I would take green olives and I would roll them in truffle oil and then put them in martinis, and people just would go crazy for it. So
I don't know what it is, but it makes it a lot better.
yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
As I mentioned before, you guys were, rated the best view and the best rooftop spot in Toledo.
Yeah.
I don't really know what your competition is.
Yes.
But how do you think that we talk about atmosphere a lot. Does that coincide with your brand of just being at the top? Like, do you want to be the top in terms of like the bars in the area as well, or?
We really do. We want to be a place where people, and I think you said it was mentioned there, a place to be seen. I think we want. I would say downstairs, Brimhouse is the place I want where people to be seen, and up here is the place to be at.
Okay.
And I think I want people to. This is the place where people come and really experience a really, really, really good time. Okay. Because of the atmosphere, because it's on the rooftop, because it has the views, but also because it's a really well-run restaurant. And I think I mentioned earlier that it's consistent in its food and beverage, what we're offering, and that the service is, it's really exciting. You want to be. I want you to feel when you're up here that we are at the top. This is the highest standard of service. Not meaning it's a fine dining restaurant. It's just that it's hospitable, it's quick, it's friendly, and the staff is incredibly knowledgeable. And you feel different than when you're here than any other place in Toledo, and therefore like any other place in like the whole metro area. I want people to be like, hey, an experience at the Heights is different than any other bar experience. And there's a level of sophistication there, so that when you end up with the bill, you're not worried about how much money you spent because it was well spent. That's really what's important.
Well said.
Yeah.
And that's one thing too. I mean, there's been countless studies, but also just through first-hand knowledge that Joey and I have talked to people. It's millennials now and people that are coming through college. They would rather spend their money on experiences and getting the sought-after night or like whatever that is, as opposed to buying a car, an Xbox, whatever.
Yeah.
People would rather spend their money on the experience, and they don't regret it one bit.
No, they don't. And I'm very much live in that vein too. Like I love experiences, and I love to think back and think, oh, those are great memories. And a lot of my friends are that way too. They travel a lot, and they obviously don't live in this area, but we keep in touch through all the social media channels, and they're all real travelers. So I think there's a reason why I'm friends with people that are very experience conscious. I think it's important. It's the same thing here. You're right. There are people who don't want to necessarily go and buy a house. They'd rather spend their money out having great experiences up like in a rooftop bar like this. So we just have we have the responsibility too. I think we owe it to our guests of the hotel and also like the public to provide something of high quality, because we're gifted this amazing spot. Like the design of this, and for someone to build something this high up, there's a responsibility that you cannot let this product be inferior. And I think that that was one of the things I really stressed with my staff, and especially my executive chef we work on, is like, we have to be great because we're so lucky to be working in this atmosphere, in this environment. We're lucky to be up here working up here. There's not a lot of people that come to work that have this view.
Right.
So you don't, put some pride into your work and don't let it go to waste. So if you see trash on the floor or someone has a bad experience and they don't like their food or their beverage, try to do something. Try to do something to make their experience better. You got to go the extra mile. I think we owe it. We really, and that's what we try to do when we hire people, is the big chair move right there. There's a lot of work going on over there, guys. Getting ready right now. That was a screed. That was on a chalkboard. But we have that responsibility. So yeah. I think it's paramount.
So I've got two questions.
Yes.
Was this always a restaurant or a bar up here, or was this something different before?
So it's been a couple different brands. It started off as a Sofa Hotel, which is like a French hotel, and then after that it was a Crown Plaza. I had heard, and I maybe misread. Let me think. It was not a bar before. This is the first time it's been a restaurant. It's the first time it's been a bar. I heard it was one time a residence. Actually, this was like a presidential suite.
That's sweet.
Yes. I heard this was like maybe the owner's private suite, and then he would rent this out for guests. But this is the first time it's ever been an outlet. Yeah, first time.
And when did the Heights open? Do you know?
Heights opened it's like 2.5, almost 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's one of the newer bars in the area?
You would say like 3 years old is pretty new for any. I mean, the hotel itself is still very new. I mean, you think about 3 years is not a very long time for a hotel. There's hotels that have been around for 25, 50 years. So this whole hotel is very new to Toledo.
And you had mentioned your executive chef earlier. So how do you guys decide when you make modifications to the menu? You guys want to try something a little creative or something different. How do you guys decide what goes and what stays on the menu?
It's a great question. Menu development is really something you have to take very seriously. And I would think I'd answer your question with you first have to look at how the cost of your ingredients. So you look at how much does a menu item cost? What's the percentage on that? And then what am I charging? What am I charging for it? What's the retail on it? And then what percentage of return am I making? Then you look at actually how many items you're selling. If you have a menu item that is the most popular item and you want to take that item off, there's a risk there, right? Now, if you want to take that item off and it's popular, but you're not making a lot of money in return on it, then that makes sense. But if you're taking a menu item off that has a high profit and then is very popular, you better replace it with something that is going to be of equal standing. You have to look at it's a lot of it, like I said, is where you have to put your adult caps on. You have to look at it like, okay, hey, I want to be creative all the time, but what really is driving the menus? Okay. Then the best way to do is to try something is to put it on as a special. It can't, when you change a menu item, it means you have to change the menu, right? The actual physical menu. You have to go into the system. You have to train the staff. You have to you have to make sure that it's publicized. You have to put social media behind it. There's a lot that goes into it if you want to do it the right way. If you just want to throw something on there, throw something on there. But if you want to be a food and beverage professional about it, you have to go through these steps. So instead of doing that, put it on as a special. Just try it out. And don't do it for a night. Put it on for 3 weeks or for however long you have that product. See if it sells. Make sure you put some social media behind it. Put some weight behind it. Get some education behind it. If it's the big hit, then you take it back in. I wouldn't even say if it's a big hit, do you then put it on your menu? You look at it and you'd be like, okay. A menu is like your baby. You have to be really careful with it. I like to change my menus maybe 3 times a year, maybe 2 times a year, depending on your outlet. I think if you do any more than 3 menu changes, you can. A lot of chefs do that. A lot of places do that and are successful with it. But you got to have the analytics behind it. You have to.
I've never even thought about the detail that goes into crafting the perfect menu or anything like that.
It's a lot of work, and I think the more serious you take about it, the better results you're going to have. I really think that, and I think that people in food and beverage, especially in hotels or in hospitality, you have to have a business sense, right? You have to know what things cost. You have to know the cost of goods. If you don't, and you're ignoring that, you're not going to be successful.
And I like how you only limit it to for your business, or at least the Heights, 2 to 3 times a year, because sometimes people come here, and there's probably 1 or 2 food or like drink options that they like, and expect to have, when they come here.
Oh yeah.
So
we changed the menu a few months ago, and we took some items off that were we didn't think they were a good representation of the Heights. It was more of a tapas style, and we had people that were still like, I can't believe you took that off. And hey, listen, I'm sorry we took it off, but we weren't making a lot of money on it, and 2, we just wasn't the direction we were going to go. We were having trouble with the consistency of it. But you're always going to have people be like, hey, that you just ruined it, my life. You took that menu item off, and you have to have the confidence to be like, hey, listen, I'm sorry we took that off, but we're going to put out a menu that I'm sure you can find that you can enjoy. And if you can't enjoy it, talk to the chef and we'll cook something up for you. We'll go the extra mile for you. You do that for people, and 9 times out of 10, you go the extra mile for them. They'll appreciate it, and then they'll kind of calm down.
Mm-hmm. Then they'll give you a good review on Yelp.
Yes, you're going to get a Yelp review. You're going to get a Yelp review.
So you mentioned social media.
Mm-hmm.
How has that played a role in your business here?
Right, it's huge, man. I mean, it's huge. I mean, I found you guys through social media. So
That's true. Yeah.
Social media is huge. You know, your brand is really important. The message, the artwork, the images you put up, the type of posts, that type of comments. Social media is really important. I think it's important in how you market your business, but I think I go back to it like before you get into social media, make sure you have a solid foundation of who you are, because you can be a lot of things on social media. You can have the most colorful photos, you can have the most marketable pictures, you can have great verbiage, but if you can't produce that, you got to check the creativity a little bit and make sure that you can produce what you're talking about, because actions speak louder than words. But to get back more into the question, you have to have a really consistent presence on there. Photography is really important. Mm-hmm. I judge a business by its photography. If you put a picture up or an image and it's grainy and it doesn't have a professional feel to it and your text isn't professional, I'm judging your business. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, maybe it's not, they're not as serious about it as maybe they should be. So I think especially for a hotel like this, for a Renaissance brand hotel, you have to have great social media. If you're going to take a picture of a hamburger, you can't just take a picture with bad lighting and an overshot of it where it's just not a good photo. Yeah. If you're going to take a picture of a drink, it's got to be done well. You got to use a good camera. You got to take the extra mile. The more important your brand is, the more work you got to put into it. So I'm very careful, and we're very careful what our images look like. Because I don't want people to come up and be like, "Ooh, that's an inferior photo," or that food doesn't look great. Or that you take the pictures of the right kind of guest, meaning like guests that are having a good time, that are happy. You know what I mean? You want those pictures in there. You want to put out a certain message. And up here, our message is like, we want people to have fun. We want people to be a little funky up here. We want them to be fun. We want them to be excited. We want them to have a good time. We want them to celebrate. So we got to make sure that we craft that right image.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Who runs your guys' social media?
We do a little bit internal. It's kind of a mix. So we work with, we have a social media coordinator that actually works in our company, that works with our hosts specifically, that we interface with and we work with. So she has a big analytic background, and she works a lot with what posts work, when they work. We work a lot with her on curating really great posts. And then we do a lot of in-house. We actually reach out a lot to our staff internally. There's a lot of staff internally that have a lot of great skill sets. Mm-hmm. And you got to talk to your staff and find out. Like, not everyone's just a bartender or just a cook, or I'm not just a food beverage director. Like, you have hobbies. Mm-hmm. So you find out someone's like, has a social media page, and that's their hobby, and they have a really great page. We have a couple people here with really great pages at the Heights. We've asked them for opinions, We've taken some live pictures and live shots, and it went live a few times, and I think you want to have a nice mix of that. So it's kind of like almost guerrilla style, right, mixed with like this real professional kind of feel. And I noticed that like shooting quick videos or story updates are great to do. You can do a little bit of a guerrilla style where you can kind of sacrifice a little bit of your maybe lighting, because it's something that's live. It's right there. Well, every time we do a live post at the Heights when our bartender's talking about a drink, get a ton of hits. Yeah, ton of hits when people are like, they're going live. It's right there. And we try to also focus a lot on like the personalities of our bartenders. Lauren or Mitchell or Kevin, there's a name to a face. So when you come up, you saw that person on a video, and then now they're there making a drink. Right. We want people to make some type of connect. Like the show Cheers. I mean, that show existed because like everyone knew the bartenders' names. Everyone knows your name. That's why they kept going back to the bar. Not because the beers were cold, it's because it's like a family in there. So you take a little of that vibe, and you can bring it even into a hotel bar. Some people are like, oh, it's a hotel bar. How can you have this kind of like, it's not a dive bar. No, it's not a dive bar, but you can have a pub feel to it. Mm-hmm. People can get to know the Heights bartender. They come up here and it can feel, we have guests that come up here and it feels like they feel like regulars. You want regulars to come up because regulars are going to help pay their PR for you. Right. That's what they do. And I'm a great example of like a regular where I go to a bar and I really like it. I tell everybody, So a bar if I really like in the city, tell everybody to go there. I mentioned a couple places so far on this podcast where like I'm a big fan of them because I like what they do. So I like the feel of being a regular. I like to know people that I'm dining with.
Oh yeah, and I mean word of mouth is like the strongest marketing you can have. Like,
man.
I mean, if I've known you for 10 years and you say like this place is great,
Probably gonna try it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Steve's or whatever,
Exactly, like that's a good spot.
I'm so likely to go and try it just because your reputation. So
exactly.
I think that's really one thing that's taken over too with social media is people can now see your opinions and thoughts on everything.
Yes.
So if somebody retweets something from the Heights, it's like, oh shit, now I got to go check that out.
Yes.
Right? So
and that could be that you got to also too like you got to mind your P's and Q's, man, because I mean you can get butchered on social media too. So you can get nailed, and sometimes you have to find a way. You find the line of how, if you're gonna let it lie, or you're gonna come out and respond to it. Especially if it's something that's like false or like malicious. You have to be like, hey, how do I respond in a professional way? Yeah, so I mean, that you figure out how you want to respond, and then how you protect the brand.
Yeah.
But I've noticed this that like, if somebody gives you negative feedback or negative comment on experience, respond.
Yeah.
Always respond, and we do a really good job of being like, we apologize for that experience. Or in the other vein, when someone says Heights rocks or the Toledo Renaissance rocks, also respond.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems like you have a really good grasp on it because that's one thing that businesses fail at, which is interacting within comments.
74% of small businesses do not utilize social media correctly.
And
you have to.
Not utilizing it correctly would be not commenting on posts like that.
So. Yeah, you really have to. And I find it necessary to constantly explain and talk and interact with social media people. It can be a little bit daunting, it can be a little bit scary because I think words sometimes can really hurt people. But we always, regardless if someone's negative with us, we're never negative. We're always positive back.
So you're a big bar goer.
Yeah,
Let's
I love
go out
bars.
and have a good time.
Yes.
What is your hangover recipe?
Oh man, so mine's a little bit different. Mine's I like exercise in the morning. Okay.
Well,
now, most people don't say that because they're like, "What do you mean exercise?" Sweat. So I get out. I love the box. I boxed growing up, a little bit of amateurs, but now I don't get in the ring anymore. I do more for like fitness boxing. So I'll do like there's some great title boxing or like classes I'll take. So I like to exercise and I like to get out, exercise, and get sweated out of me. And then I would say like some spicy food and a glass of red wine in the afternoon. Because I've been on like many trips to, like I went down to Mexico. I was in like Baja California, and you're out there and you're having like having a little too many drinks. You wake up the next morning, and we ran up this mountain, came down, showered, dressed, went out to like the Valle, had a glass of wine. Afternoon, ready to go again. Completely got over the hangover.
That's wild.
So that's my hang. So it's not like some people are like hamburgers, stay in bed. Mm-hmm. I force myself to get up. I exercise, and as soon as I have a glass of like light wine, like a Pinot Noir, I'm ready to go, man. I feel so much better.
We've heard.
I know, right? That's crazy. People are like, that's insane. What do you mean? Like, that's it. That's my hangover remedy.
Yeah, I've definitely. That's the first time we've heard like exercise. Usually it's hair of the dog or something like that.
Yeah. Sweat it out, man. And get your listen. The first 10 minutes, or like some people go for like a lot of bartenders will like go for a run. Yeah. But there's something about exercise, and like I said, it just gets you through it quicker. It's very hard. It's hard to do, but you can do it.
Might have to try that out.
You have to try it, man.
That's wild.
I've definitely gained a few pounds over quarantine.
Yeah,
so
everybody has. Everybody has.
So what holidays or what days of the year would you say is the busiest around here?
So for a city property like this, it's a little bit different. If you're in a resort property, you're going to be busier on your 4th of Julys, and I would say for us, our busy time is really wedding season. So you're really looking at weddings are going to be, we're actually kind of just starting wedding season right now. You're looking at spring and summer. Spring and summer are the busiest times for our property because we do a lot of weddings, and we do weddings from anywhere from 100 people to 500 people. And weddings can sometimes go for 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's our really big holidays. We see uptick in your major holidays, but nothing like I said, a resort property that has a lot more amenities. People go away. They go to Florida for Christmas, or they're traveling to a mountain resort. We're here. It's a city property. It's a little bit different. You kind of adjust to that. We still do good business on those holidays. 4th of July is still a great opportunity because we have a great view of the fireworks. Or Christmas, we'll do some brunches and dinners. New Year's is nice, but really it's that wedding season, that spring and summer weddings.
Nice.
It's what's nice. I mean, Ohio's got, some crazy weather. So, when it's warm out, Ohio brides want to get married.
Yeah.
It was snowing in May. So
snowy in May.
Yeah, I was at my mom's in Cleveland the past week. It snowed 4 out of the past 7 days.
It's crazy, right?
And it's like May 10th, May 15th. Like, it's insane to me.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so we always like to get one of these questions and just like a fun off-topic one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any good ghost stories?
Good ghost stories. Oh man, that's a good one. Okay, yeah, I got one.
All right, let's hear it.
So this is. I grew up in an area outside Philadelphia called Washington Crossing. So like Washington across the Delaware?
Yeah.
I grew up right there.
Okay.
So like a lot of colonial stuff. So there's this place called Crybaby Bridge, which is this covered bridge in the middle of Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania. And how the story goes is that like these German Hessians were like captured and they were drowned under the bridge, right? So you could hear them crying as they were getting killed, right? But it was like this big scandal because they were prisoners of war. How it works is that what you do is, and it's a scary one of these like colonial style scary bridges, right? You pull up to the bridge and it's completely dark and black inside the bridge, and you're supposed to walk one at a time, like one step at a time through the bridge, and you have to go through the bridge, stop, turn around, and go the other way, and you're supposed to be able to hear the soldiers screaming when you're in there, right? So you do it at night. I did it once. You'd be amazed how the mind plays tricks on you. You're walking through it and I'm like hearing crying, right? And I don't know if I'm hearing it. I don't know if it's my buddies. I don't know if someone's under the covered bridge, but I can hear like shrieking. And I don't know if it's an animal. And you're literally parts beating out of your chest, your ears start to go like numb, and you do the whole thing takes about like 5 minutes, and that's a long 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that was the scariest thing I ever did, and I swore that I could feel the boards in the covered bridge starting to heat up, like things were getting really hot, and I think it's just you're like psychologically you're like driving yourself crazy. But that is, to me, is like the scariest ghost story that I've ever like heard or been involved in.
Or it could be real. I mean,
I don't know. I'm just telling you right now. I did it, and I got in the car, and I was the first to do it, and I wasn't even driving, but I got in the driver's seat because I'm ready to go.
Oh my god.
I'm ready to put this thing in drive and jet out of here because this is, 3 of my buddies were left to do it, and I was white knuckle freaking out.
So you were the first to do it. They all stayed in the car.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm always the first to like do things, and like it's not like but I was so scared out of all of them that I think if I would have waited,
you wouldn't.
I would have thrown up. I was like 15 or 16. I think I was 16, so I probably would have thrown up. I would have been so scared just from the fear of it. You know what I mean?
So going off like fear and something like that.
Yeah.
What's the most thrill-seeking thing you've ever done?
I mean, I don't do a lot of like. I don't do a lot of risky things. I'm a little bit of a Boy Scout. Like, sometimes I jump out of airplanes and stuff like that. I don't do a lot of, what's like the most risky thing I've done? I did the Lime scooters in Detroit at night. And there was a couple times where I think I probably shouldn't be here doing that podcast. Where I was like, you get really into it, and I'm in downtown Detroit, and there's certain streets in Detroit where there's like no one there. And I just was like really gunning it. And I think a couple times I probably could have, those wheels, if they would have hit like a sewer grate.
Yeah.
I'm going. That's the most risky thing I've done recently.
That's funny.
The boys love the Lime scooters.
Oh, yeah, we love
right?
the Lime scooters. They're not out yet, sadly. But when they are, we take them for a few rides every now and then.
Toledo, if Toledo ever gets Lime scooters, that's dangerous.
Well, we have them on campus.
Do we really? Oh, you have them on campus?
Yeah, there's a
so we
pretty
use them.
decent amount of them. Usually they take them out during the like winter, but they haven't put them back yet. They were supposed to be out like a month or two ago.
Cool,
with everything
man.
going on, I think they're gonna wait another few weeks. But,
Social distancing, man.
yeah, but once they come out, we're definitely taking them for a ride.
I love them, man. The Lime scooters. That's the most dangerous thing I've done recently. Lime scootering in Detroit.
I thought you were gonna say something crazy like.
No, that's crazy to me. That's nuts to me, dude.
You started off with Detroit, and I was about to get good.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't have like a good Detroit crazy story, but that's my crazy segment. I'll have to go to Detroit more. It'll happen if I keep going to Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Something will happen.
If you ever go there, Tellway Burgers.
Oh, okay.
Got any questions for us?
No. Super. It was really great talking to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great having you on the podcast.
Thank you.
One last question. Do
Yeah.
you have any future adventures, or where can we see you?
Where can you? Well, I would say that we are really excited to get with the pandemic being lifted, I guess social distancing is still applied. We're really excited to open up. So we have the go ahead open up the 15th. We're going to try to make that date, and then the 21st, all the restaurants opens up. So I would say, look out for the Heights. The Heights we're going to get that open, and then we'll like everyone else, we're going to start bringing it back, and generate some good business. But the goal is to get people back on this patio and get people kind of having fun. So the Heights is going to be, I think, a great opportunity and a great little epicenter for people to be here in downtown Toledo. Because we've already fielded a lot of calls from people like, when can we go on the rooftop?
Yeah.
So
sure.
yeah, check us out. We're on social media. It's the Heights. We have our website's the Heights. Instagram, Facebook, we're on almost everything. We're not on Snapchat. We'll probably stay on Snapchat. But it's not a good thing for us. But there'll be a lot of downtown Toledo is going to come back, and it's going to come back strong. And the bar scene, people are. I think the customers are really going to die to come back here and to eat and to drink and to be merry. Because one thing Ohioans do really well is they socialize.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.